Well, we are live, and hello and welcome, everyone, to. I guess I'll just be calling it Friday Nights Talks now, because it's Friday instead, and I'm probably just gonna leave this over on YouTube because I've been moving this all around every little platform. But maybe it'll be good to just have this on YouTube and link it to your Substack, Black Knight, and see if that works out.
Ah, yes,
But
yes.
all links will be in the description after these streams because, well, there's algo stuff. I can't say much more because YouTube. Anyways, so Black Knight. Now, normally I'm the one who throws the topic out there, and we then go from there. As people have noticed in previous videos and streams and podcasts, but this time Black Knight's taking the lead. So yeah, but first I have to ask my fellow Knight of the Round Table, how are you?
Well, I'm well. I'm at least even though we have had um quite the gloomy weather recently.
Yeah,
uh
same here.
it's almost as if we are in England.
Yeah,
uh
same.
yes. So yeah, even though the weather is gloomy, I'm in good spirits. I've almost completed one of my last, I hope, uh, like refurbishing jobs, uh,
Hmm.
uh, which is all about reformatting, changing the format of my older books, the older publications, because I'm uh, ready to change the covers and have an uniform um, vision for the covers of the entire book series, the entire Star Shattered book series. So that was what I was doing recently, and of course, I'm 100% focused on completing the eighth book in the series, which has the title. It was a working title before, but I more and more, like the longer I work on it, the more I um, like it, and it will be, let's say, a reveal here on Friday Night's Talk. And the eighth book shall be titled Torrents of Light.
Torrents of Light is a good title.
Yeah. And you perhaps will notice something, since you liked uh, Warcraft.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, you will notice if you think about the title. You will
Ah.
notice something. Yeah. Yes.
Meanwhile, I've been on my end trying to get this darn crowdfund some marketing, and I've been just moving some stuff around on to buy me a coffee and whatnot,
Ah,
and um, trying to get to 2,200 subs on Substack, which you'd think would be easy. Like this, once you get to a certain size, growth becomes easier. You'd think, but actually, it's like pulling teeth from a grizzly bear. It's like this is getting harder and harder.
Grizzly
And
bear on crack.
yeah, and I'm struggling to try to figure this one out. But on the other hand, on the positive side, like at least I've finished um, another uh, chapter in my Heracles novel, which
Ooh.
yeah, I like your ooh, because that's a project that's so slow going, entirely because if I'm being honest, um, the thing um, with the Heracles novel I'm writing is that it isn't as, how do I put it? It takes me so long just to write a single chapter because everything's
Mm,
got to be positioned carefully. I got to balance
yes,
out
yes,
like
yes.
the fantasy elements with the actual mythology. There's also the tone you have to catch just right, because if it's too
Yeah, it has to feel proper.
mm, but at the same time I have to have an element of also some of the lived in feel, or at least an air about it, not the actual, like the feel has to be ancient Greek mythology and whatnot, but the air about it has to almost be legendary journeys because people in the West, that's what they look back fondly on. So but I can't have the camp or the cheese. So there's
Mm,
this weird, I don't want to say vibe, but like it's a very hard thing to capture a certain air, tone, theme, and
mhm,
also these two dynamic forces of the more medieval fantasy. Well, fantasy is basically an extension of medieval fiction, balanced out with like what you know of the Iliad and the ancient stuff, and bringing these forces together. It's really really hard, and
mhm.
of
This
course,
this reminds me. This reminds me of the first thing that I read, which you told me of about um, this exact story, and I was like reading the very beginning. I'm like, well, this gives me the feels, and I'm almost transported back to my childhood where I was reading the all the mythology about the gods, and especially the Iliad and the Odyssey, and it was like you've captured it,
thanks. It's
and it's not easy.
no, and it's why I only write like a few paragraphs every day in this story. It's because it's just so slow going. Like I'll write like a full page or 10 or 5 pages or 10 pages in other books a day, but then with Heracles, um, it's like painting with the smallest brush imaginable, but you're trying to paint,
Yes, yes.
the Hagia Sophia, and you're like, I gotta paint with a small toothbrush almost. All right, I did that much today. And the whole exercise is, well, it's complicated by the fact, there's real life stuff, there's obligations towards
That too.
casual work that I'm now doing, there's obligations towards tending the vegetable garden, which is basically a small farm almost. There's helping out relatives, and also now going back to school. So there's these, and I'm also doing more and more podcasts now for some reason. So and you've got your own schedules like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, with the topic today, so um, you said Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, I believe.
Yes, yes. And because I know that both of us, perhaps you even more, we are uh, lovers of, enjoyers of the epicness, the grand epicness of Lord of the Rings, and also
Hmm.
of the Star Wars universe. And of course, we are not talking about the the whatever others can say. I mean, they may like the new stuff. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but
Even if their opinion is wrong.
yes, even if their opinion is wrong, they they can waste their time with that. Uh, uh, how
You were
should
trying
I?
to be nice.
Yes, yes. I'm. I know that this is YouTube and we are not supposed to go
Get too
overboard.
spicy.
Yes. So I had a list. I still have the list of amazing battles, epic
Mhm.
battles, in both in Star Wars and like we're talking OG Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
And I was when we discussed earlier before the stream, I mentioned that some of the battles they are from let's say the extended universe, the EU. They were not filmed because when Disney is like filming battles, they hyperspace jump ram ships into other ships. They drop bombs like they're doing carpet bombing in World War II and other insane shenanigans, which they don't even look good. We're talking about the classic, quite perfectly well planned and imagined battles, which captured the feel of both universes. So, which one is your favorite?
Which one is my favorite epic
From
battle
Star
scene
Wars.
from
From Star
Star
Wars.
Wars?
It could be from the books. It could be from the
hard.
older games,
Well,
because the games too they were quite epic.
oh
And
yeah, they were.
remember the game TIE Fighter?
Yeah, that one was pretty good. I have okay. I like the okay for video games. I'll say the Battle of Korriban, where you're
Oh,
from Jedi Academy, where you know the game. Like
yes,
you
of
you
course.
plunge into the tombs. You have to fight your way through. Now I know a lot of people like KOTOR and whatnot, but I like those games. But it's like you can pause. You can like you don't have complete control. It's like there's the auto control element to it. Whereas with Jedi Academy, you had to maneuver, you had to think, you had to strategize, you had to slash at, and the slightest mistake means you die, or the slightest. But when you actually succeed really well, you see your what they what the did was they made it slow mo so that you can see yourself just like your character Jaden Core just slicing the limb or the enemy off or down for size while looking cool, and I like
That's the most important thing.
yeah, and I love that you're not fighting one or like a single Sith. You're fighting like half a dozen, but the only thing that's auto is the auto defense, where your character automatically goes to block when you're not slashing. So you control the exact slash, the angle, the style of it. And I always love that. And the fact that it's a 3 hour mission or something. Like it's an hour to 3 hours, because just drop us in. Like with Star Wars, it's not that you want less time there, you want more time. And that's always been one of the best parts about Star Wars is just you don't want to spend little time there. You want to spend all your time there. And that's something I don't think Disney well, actually, I'll give Disney this much. They do understand this on some level. People just want to spend their time in Star Wars. It's so much better than the real world in a lot of ways. But
how they are spending the time, that's what
exactly.
they don't do not understand. Yes.
Yeah, they don't freaking understand it. But the thing with as far as my favorite battle goes for let's say a book or something, or I might say I'm quite proud of the Kenobi timeline, which you can find on Spotify and Substack with Star Wars Loose Cannon with Chris Higgins, was the final battle of the Imperial period, which is supposed to be where you have Darth Sakrillios and her army of Sith and Imperial stormtroopers and Grand Admirals and whatnot up against one Imperial remnant, the Republic, and the Mandalorians and the Jedi. and where it's supposed to be like not one or two star like capital ships, but tens of thousands ramming into each other, blasting at each other, as Luke Skywalker plans out this battle very carefully, where we see Luke as a general. Then he helps initiate battle meditation with a bunch of other Jedi as they force meld together as well. So you see him as this grand, powerful force sensitive. So that this would be a culmination, like of him at his
Yes.
peak. But at the same time, you got Han slipping into an enemy ship with Leia, who flicks on her lightsaber and goes to challenge people because she's so much more powerful than Luke. So you have her, you have all the other fanfic characters and whatnot, and of course you have the catastrophe, which is that the blind, semi-crippled character comes into the rescue, and Boba Fett, where he switches sides because the Dark Lady made the mistake of trying to kill him, and where this is a better redemption story because he was saved thanks to the Jedi, and he decides he's pissed off with the Sith for trying to kill him and betraying him and not paying him as well.
You don't try to stab Mandalorians in the back, and
And
especially
Boba-
don't paying them.
And Boba plunges in with Slave One, because it was believed it was blown up and he's dead, and it'd be Slave 4, and it's like you have even the Sith. Wait, he's oh no, and he starts knocking down one capital ship after another, and just tipping the scales of the battle, and I'm quite pleased with that one. But for movies, I might say the battle at the beginning of Episode 3 is my favorite army, like mega battle type thing, because it crosses from the 2003 cartoon to the books to comics to the big screen, like across all these different mediums. And this is something I always thought this is how you do it. And you can see that there's hundreds of ships. Now in the books and comics, it's strongly implied and shown it's thousands. The Battle of Coruscant is an epic battle. And of course, you have Obi-Wan and Anakin who fly in and whip out the lightsabers and do all that. But if we're just talking lightsaber duels, I'll say Vader versus Obi-Wan, as Obi-Wan proves his superiority over Vader. How about you?
Yes. Well, I liked some because you mentioned the KOTOR series. I liked some of the, perhaps because I liked the system that old BioWare tactical battle system. I liked it. I loved like the ending of the first game where you go to the Starforge, if I remember correctly.
Starforge.
Yes, and you fight with your former apprentice. Spoilers, everyone. For those who never played the games, you should. And that entire sequence where he drains the life out of the captives. There are people captured in special containers, like pods, and he would drain them and he would recover and he would continue to fight. But there is a way to save all of them. And perhaps it depends how you play the game, but that battle was really something. And as for space battles, perhaps the first Death Star.
That's an epic one.
Yeah, from the classic movies. Of course, the Battle of Coruscant is like a feast for the senses.
Yeah.
And yes, it's glorious. I've read about it. I know some of the ships, especially the enemy ships. It's the the drones and everything. It's masterfully done. Oh, probably because Lucas was in charge. That's why. And the people who worked under him, they put their heart and soul in it. But yes, the first Death Star, it like encapsulates this desperate struggle of the rebellion against the Empire. And the Empire is coming with a planet killing spacecraft which is the size of a moon, and they have snub fighters. That's it. We have nothing. Well, you can't say that they had nothing. They had Luke.
Well, yeah, and he's the ultimate.
And they had Han Solo, because Han Solo, if you remember, he kind of elegantly sneak attacked.
Woo!
Yes, at the best possible moment.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah,
and that was one of the best moments. In a straight up dogfight, Vader would stomp him.
Oh yes, yeah.
But I'll actually, but on the other hand, I'll say Han's popular for a reason, but Kyle Katarn will always be better.
Oh, yes. I also like that old game, Dark Forces, the shooter, where you play as Kyle Katarn.
I liked when it comes to playing him, I kind of liked Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, Jedi Outcast. Yeah, but that was like the very first game. He's not using a lightsaber. He's just
he's breaking into Kuat.
Yes, he's using the Imperial weapons and the first mission where he steals the Death Star plans pretty much. That's one of that was perhaps
glorious,
like from the old games, the old games.
I know. I read the comic of that and seen some of the gameplay. It's the older Star Wars games. There's nothing really in the new generation of games and whatnot, or even in the movies or shows that can compare with it. Like you look at Andor and whatnot, a lot of people are still excited about that, but it's like, guys, you have no idea how exciting Battlefront 2 or Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy or KOTOR 2 were back in the day. You guys are neophyte apprentices who have not yet fully tasted the Force. Like you've never, you know what I mean? Like even the Force Unleashed people, I'm like, you guys have never tasted the true glory of Star Wars, what it's really like. And the trouble is that Star Wars games traditionally were pretty hard. And after Force Unleashed, they just got so easy. Actually, in Force Unleashed, you're not able to lose or game over until Vader. There's no way. I've actually tried, and you can't. I've put down the controller and left it on for 2 hours, surrounded by stormtroopers, and he's still just parrying every shot and not taking a single hit. It's impossible to lose, but that's where I ended up quickly growing disappointed and bored with the game because, if you can't lose, it's lame. But the thing is, these news shows and whatnot, they lack a fundamental understanding to Star Wars. And the problem is, it's that only George Lucas can make Star Wars. Like I know a lot of OT fans actually hate him, but guys, you have to accept it. If you don't like his vision, you don't like Star Wars. If you don't like George, that's okay, fine. But we have to accept that the one who made Star Wars what it was is George Lucas. No one could do what he did. And I'll even extend it so far as to say that, you can make, only Black Knight can make Star Shatter. Like, I was talking with a guy about this in another podcast the other day. It was a live over on Substack. And what he said was only he could write the books he writes. Only I could write the books I write. only Black Knight could write, Star Shatter. But on the same token, only George Lucas can make Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like it's something that comes from deep within as much as it comes from God. It's like this comes from deep within a person as well. So it's like a gift given only to you that you are able to unleash onto the world. And Star Wars was George's gift. And like, who else has had the computer know-how and the know-how of props and camera angles to give us the Battle of Coruscant in the style that he did? Who else could do that on the big screen so everyone could see it? Or could have, in 1976, have made the Battle of Yavin? No one. And like, I've spoken with some people who said, well, Spielberg or Scorsese could have. No, they actually said they didn't think it was possible. And they actively tried to sabotage the project by proposing George's wife as the editor. And she was supposed to cut more of the film, but George added stuff back in. Now we have 45 minutes cut from that film, from the final product of that film. And I'll actually say, the problem is we have the director's cut that's hidden in George's basement we're never going to see. And I don't regard the cuts that she did as a good thing, because I've seen some of the deleted scenes and they would have added.
Oh yeah. You remember the scene with
Luke in the desert staring up
yeah.
the battle? That'd have been epic.
And then there was like another cut with Luke and his friend, the one who joined the.
Oh yeah, film. Biggs.
It was like, this is a monumental error. This should never have been cut.
Because it's integral. Because we need Biggs in there so that we know Luke.
It's mega important.
Yeah, and because like it's just, hey Luke, how are you? It's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, who the fuck are you? Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh hey Biggs, and you're left going, who?
What happened? Did I sleep during the movie? What the fuck is this?
Yeah, like I just remember going, okay. And then when he got shot down as a kid, I was like, good riddance. I don't care. You were in the way. You were taking up screen time. I don't like you. But then like when I read the novel, I went, wait, hold on. You can't take out Biggs. This guy's as important as Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. He's Luke's big brother. Like, psychologically, it's like he's his sworn brother. He was Han before Han. So that in the book, you have all these flashback scenes. You've got all these references to Biggs. And you're like, oh. And the thing is, Luke could not have been formed into the individual he was without Biggs Darklighter. And I kind of feel that, for one thing, maybe the authors should have given him give him a daughter or something for Luke to raise as an apprentice in the sequel period, because so that there's
a niece or something
like that. But the trouble is, like, let's cut Biggs out of the movie. But then you have one scene with him, and you're like, if you're gonna cut the early scenes out, and I don't just say the one, I mean like several. If you're going to cut them all out, just cut the one at the end out. Like, this is where her cuts actually harm the movie. And to me, it seems like she took a hatchet job and she was trying to tear this movie apart. And George had to try to put things back together. And there's a reason he ended up, I think, doing the editing on episode 5 and 6, and alongside others. And the trouble is, it still doesn't feel right, in my opinion. Well, obviously, the originals are inferior to the prequels. Yes, I said it. But the thing is, the prequels are superior because they're directly edited by George Lucas. And he doesn't have someone meddling and going in and sticking her fingers in there. And he's able to attune it closer to the novel that he's making. That, this is because the movies are just adaptations of books that George co-wrote. Like, he'd write the script himself, then pass the script along to others. They'd edit, rewrite. He'd rewrite, and then he passed it along to a novelist who then adapts it and adds details and whatnot with George's lore notes and whatnot right in front of them. So there are these massive mega projects, and he adapts the film, and that becomes this mega film blockbuster that's beyond, like, these are mega blockbusters because these things were bigger than the MCU or the MCU, we should say. And it's like, how do you look at these things and say, George, is what's wrong with these things? Are you like, I'll actually go so far as to say everyone who says George was what was wrong with Star Wars are addicted to cope. That they're just coping. And because they could never create what he created, they could never add the layers, they could never make it seem lived in, they could never create what he did. And
yes, because they are not him, and most of them are not just copying. They are jealous.
yeah, and it's something that saddens and irritates me because it's like, like they are jealous, and it's like, okay, so in your head you could do Star Wars better than George. You could balance all the staff egos. You could put together better imagery, because it took a lot of skills to balance all the CG and set study he had, because he had mega sets. You've seen the behind the scenes. It's like these massive sets for the prequels. You could balance all this out. You could write a tight script like that, balance out the politics, balance out the plot, the characterization, and everything. Right. I'm sure you could do a better job.
Sure, buddy. Sure, you can do it. Yes, of course you can.
Yeah, it's like
yeah. Now pull your fingers out of the electric socket and go light some up.
Yeah. Now, if you ask me, could those people who trashed Star Wars, could they write a great story? They probably could. Like, if what I mean is, but their story wouldn't be Star Wars. Like, let's say they say, well, I'm going to write my own Wind in the Willows. Well, okay, only you can write the kind of Wind in the Willows story that you'd write. George couldn't write it that way. And like, could George have written The Lord of the Rings? No. Could he have adapted it to film? Sure. But he could not have written it. Could, like, for example, Spielberg.
He could have, he could have written Dart of the Lightsabers?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. He could have.
Yeah. Could George, I'll just say, could George write Star Shatter? No, of course not. Too based, but I'm joking. But on the other hand, Black Knight, I think of all the directors to adapt something like Star Shatter, he might be on the short list of dream directors you'd love to see.
Yeah.
Put that on as a mega blockbuster and whatnot. I think he's one of those directors. He could pull it off. Weirdly, I wouldn't want him to touch Brotherhood of the Gemstone or something. There was a time I would have wanted him to, but after I've seen some of his fantasy stories, I think his vision would be different from mine.
Yeah,
so
he has a mind for space opera, for science fantasy, but not.
Well, his Willows movie was great, but it's not how I would make a fantasy story.
Yeah, it's a different style. It's
because it's beautiful,
because of the person that he is, because of we are the people that we are, and our core is what it is, what has evolved throughout our lives because of our
choices.
Our choices and what we've been influenced by, and eventually, it's. I mean, you could say that even those who are the closest to us, they would not probably be able to replicate exactly. They would not probably be able to replicate our vision.
No. And it's important that it be this way. And there's nothing there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I may mock people and say, like, you guys are jealous. You couldn't do what George does. Like, and if he says Han shot second, Han shot second. And the reason is he imagined Han as a man who's fallen into a grungy, roguish lifestyle, but ultimately there's a core of John Wayne goodness in there, and that Han will not shoot first, but he'll come close. Now, he intended to shoot first to an extent, but it came seconds after Greedo's shot. But the difference is, the way I took that scene is, Han's not going to shoot first for the most part, usually, except with Vader, but he's going to shoot last. And the reason he's going to shoot last is you're not getting up after he shoots. He doesn't miss. Yes. He does not miss. And it's like a dad. Oh, I'm not going to start the fight. I'm going to end the fight. And this is what I thought was the more badass image of Han. Like, and that he shot second on Vader in episode 4 because, he shoots from the Millennium Falcon at Vader. But did Vader get back up to go and fight in the Battle of Yavin? No. So, like, it's a bit of Han's not going to shoot first, but you're not getting back into the fight after he shoots. And that's the thing. Like, I've even seen the argument, the Sith were good and the Jedi were evil because monarchism is good. I'm a monarchist. Well, I'll just say this. The only reason the Sith are evil is because they're portrayed as cartoonishly bad.
Yeah,
but it's
because there are actual people in real life who are exactly like the cartoon villains because they are the idiot villains. You have all layers of villains, like all kinds of people. You can't have
now this theory is suggested
villains
by some deconstructed and subverted Englishman, Academy agent Sargon or Carl Benjamin from Sargon of Akkad and the Lotus Eaters. Like I said, completely deconstructed on their part. They've been because 10 years ago the left was saying the Sith were the good guys. Now it's the right saying, some people on the right saying no, like, and they've deconstructed themselves so that now they're thinking like leftists. And it's like, you clowns. Now I know this is a spicy hot take on YouTube, but it's like, you clowns. How am I supposed to take you seriously when you're repeating soft core lefty comments? But on the other hand, now, like I said, I'm a monarchist. But the thing with the Sith is that they are a force of decadence, degeneracy, and poison. Now, the thing is, we can debate whether the Republic's even a democracy or a republic to an extent when the real decisions are being made by the Jedi. It's like Kreia says in KOTOR 2. The real battle, like, the important thing has never been the Republic. The important thing has always been the Jedi. They decide the course of the Republic. They are the force, they're really in some ways the deep state, making the decisions for the Republic and trying to help the people and whatnot. The fact that Yoda got dominated by the Republic is because Yoda's a weak leader. Weak men lead to hard times. Hard times lead to strong men and whatnot. And strong men make good times. Now, Yoda lived in good times and he's a weak man. Whereas most of the time the Jedi have been strong, so they were able to project their force, so to speak, onto the Republic and push it in the right direction. The Sith are simply the globalists, really, wanting to push for the banks and whatnot to own everything. And, like, they've got a different vision. And this is the core difference between the two. The Sith are the corruptive force in the universe. The Jedi are the constructive force. And, like, I don't know. And, like, like I said, technically, the Jedi have never really allowed the Republic to get too far out of hand in most eras. Although when they would, the Republic would turn on them, start slaughtering them, and the Jedi would then be forced on to go on get on the run, and then they clean themselves up, come back to the Republic, take over, and redirect the Republic towards good ends. So if you actually think about it, considering Odon the Jedi Exile, even Yoda, the Republic is a mere facade for the Jedi to run things through. So it's kind of a monarchy already, and really the Empire is the subversion, if you think about it. But yeah, it's like it's just one of those things where it's like, how do you even arrive at this conclusion? But the trouble is, it's mostly people on Twitter, and the problem is Twitter deconstructs you.
I can tell you, because we went to this route. I can tell you a thing about some people who reached conclusions which I would have never even
considered.
Even considered. And let's say that I mean, first of all, you don't have anything even resembling the Force as it is in Star Wars, but in Star Shuttle you have different types of quote unquote magic, close quote, that no, it's just no. And it's evident from the first page. It's evident that there is no fucking Force in Star Shuttle. There isn't. Like, there are other things, but the Force as it is, no. And then you have like a guy who looks at one of the villains and says, well, this villain is an exact copy of Darth Vader. And first of all, the major difference is that guy is not, that villain is not a Sith Lord, he's not a Jedi, because there is no Force. He's not cybernetically augmented like Darth Vader. He doesn't have a lightsaber. He's not acting like him. He does not talk like him. Does not walk like him. Is arguably he's a great commander, though he gets his ass handed to him in the beginning because he's a bit too arrogant for his own good, even though he's perhaps one of the best commanders of the Tazaran Imperium. But for some unfathomable way, for some unfathomable reason, that person who said this is like, oh no, they're exactly the same. What? Exactly the same. And everyone who read this, they were dumbfounded. They were like, what? Yes, the Lord Umasa has a big ship, but most effective commanders would like to have, especially those who are in command of military units, and especially in space, or let's say not in space, but let's say in the Age of Sail, they would have wanted to have a nice, good, heavily armed ship with good crew, so they could survive and command their fleet. That's why you make these big ships, because they don't just sink after one shot. And I mean, I can't even. And that was just one of the things. and I'm mentioning it because like he compared it to Darth Vader, and I'm not going to even go into the details there. That was one of the first epic battles where the main characters managed to defeat him in a battle in one debris field. They used, when their ship was much smaller, and I think, was it the same guy who was like, yeah, it's almost like Darth Vader's Star Destroyer chasing Princess Leia's Corvette, and then Princess Leia's Corvette defeating his warship. It's nowhere near. This is just like you mentioned this comparison. It's like, oh, the Sith are this and that, exactly what they are not, but yeah. But I could say that regarding Star Shatter's epic battles, probably one of the first most epic battles is the Battle of Gaur, which is a frozen hellhole, but it's not like Hoth.
It's more
not
ice
that-
tundra.
It's not that bad. Like you have like some forests and shit.
Okay.
The thing there is that the new force which is being arrayed against the Terrans, the Terran Kid, which is called the Coalition, and it's being built by their enigmatic leader, the Lord Ubasa, who is like he's making alliances, and he's joining forces mostly because he's not given a proper invasion fleet by the Imperium. He's joining forces with local pirate clans, with slavers, with the Yarn, who I think are zealous, like dark religion. They have this specific religion, and they eat people alive. That's what they consider themselves to be on top of the food pyramid, the hunters of the sentient beings. And Omasa actually he decides to use their planet. This is one of their planets, Gaur, to use it as base. And he almost expects that the main characters, led by Captain Anitsa, they would just go and like arrive and attack with just their ship, just alone. But they don't do it, and they come with a small fleet and a small ground army, a ground force. And this battle, you have space battle and a ground battle. And in the ground battle, you have battle mechs. Well, not like the ones from BattleTech, but a bit like that. It's close. They're big. They have big weapons, powerful weapons. They can even shoot in ships in close orbit. And this battle, perhaps this is one of the first most epic battles. I made sure that everyone has like its layers after layers of planning went in before I even began to write it. And in space especially, you do have also special commando operations, special operations in space, which is to a certain point reminded me of that Star Wars Clone Wars cartoons, like the cartoon that they showed on Cartoon Network, not the 3D animation, like the later one, where you had the ARC troopers go and blow up one of the orbital cannons of the banking clans, and they had this battle with grav bikes and stuff, which was pretty epic. But this one is really really epic, even though in standards, like in the standards of the universe itself, you don't have like too many ships. You don't have like thousands of ships. It's probably a couple of squadrons, like maybe 100 ships, something like that. And yeah, it was at one point it was really
Ow.
but
Honestly, like that sort of stuff. Well, this ties into our discussion. Like, could you write what someone else could write? I could not write science fiction like that. Like in my youth, I probably could have, but that would have been me like writing Star Wars fan fiction. I could have written good Star Wars fan fiction, but it wouldn't be. But you know, like those days are behind me, and I can't write sci-fi anymore. Maybe for a movie script, if it's commissioned, I could write a passable thing, but not anything that's like what you just told me about. So, like you asked me, all right, Joe, can you write a fantasy story? I could write one. As to the quality, I'll leave it to you and all my readers. But I could write a good Heracles story, I think, but I can't write like Star Shatter or Star Wars at this point. What I have in me is not that. It's one of those things where, you know, as you get older, you start to recognize your strengths and weaknesses. And, you know, like, I'll be honest, your gift for science fiction is quite remarkable and unique amongst a lot of the writers on Substack, as you're one of the more top tier sci-fi authors over there. I mean, like you've got the, what is it, 600 subs to prove it on Substack?
Close. That's close to 550 something ish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's close. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing like for example, I mog people with essays and with stories. I just throw everything at them and mob them with it. Like with 1 to 2 posts a day. Whereas you're going much slower, and I tend to do a lot of essays. You tend to do mostly stories. So, you know, and Substack favors essays. And this is where your growth is probably better than what mine would be if I had clung only to stories. So in that regard, you know, like 556 or something isn't anything to sneeze at, as those are purely fiction, like your fiction, dedicated readers and
fiction enjoyers.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's really quite remarkable, the growth you're getting.
You know what's the most strange actually thing is that back in the day I considered myself mostly fantasy. Mostly fantasy, right?
Wow, that
And
does surprise me.
yes, and I was like, no, 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 no. Science fiction is like it's. I won't be able to do as good a job as, for example, let's say, if I uh, focused on writing fantasy, but I always go for what is for me the hardest first, because if you can all like if you can already do something, yes, you can focus at it, but if you pull strength from what you can already do well and pour it into, like, augment what you are not all too skilled yet in, and you augment it, and you're able to improve by using your already existent uh whatever strength that you have. And I I designed, let's say, I designed the Star Shutter universe to be primarily science fantasy, uh, because
Mhm.
that's what, let just look at Star Wars. You have wizards in Star Wars. You have wizards that can fry you with bolts of lightning. That's it.
Yeah.
For some, come on, they can levitate. They can, yeah. So that's that's the first thing, and I always liked the idea of having this, not the deranged horror element which some universes have, like the doom and gloom horror element, but more like the, what I like to say, the wholesome horror, which, yeah, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's monstrous. Like, you have beings almost Tuhu like beings and stuff. You have these things called the unlife that they are not. They have not been born. They're uncreated forms of life. Of life. They're unlife. That's why they're called unlife. They have never been alive to be called undead. That's the idea. They are almost like a negative form of life, an energy form of life, but negative. And they feed upon all life, and especially life that exhibits strong positive feelings like valor, bravery, camaraderie, love for your family, for your friends. Like, all of these, it makes the person whom they would devour their soul. It's like, these all of these things make that soul, let's say, tastier. So I wanted my universe to have this. Not it and it's not just them. It's not just the unlife. You have a whole bunch of ancient monstrosities, just like all universes have to have. This is the one of the nicer tropes, the nicer fantasy tropes of the ancient malevolent beings, which are mysterious and probably nobody knows, or let's say someone knows just a tiny bit, and everyone is shitting their pants. And it's something that's, oh no, you shouldn't say its name. Why? Because if you say its name, you'll call it, or him or her or whatever it is. And but the wholesome part is that uh, throughout the millennia and the millions of years of this universe, um, the people, the different alien peoples, they have had it. They have fucking had it with all of these various types of horrors, monsters, etc., ghosts, and this and that, and they have had it, and there comes a point where the monster is still a monster, but you have individuals who are hunting the monster, and they have like many countless of billions have died. Yes.
Wow, billions.
Mortals are mortal, and they in most cases they are weak, and that's why you call them mortal, and you call the monsters because monsters are powerful, they are scary, and they prey upon the weak. But it's at some point the mortals have had it, and they have developed certain technologies, and they have adapted, because that's what mortals do. They adapt, they learn, they change. And the problem is that all of these monsters, they can change. Like most of them, they are unchangeable. They are what they are, because they are reflections of, what monsters are. They are reflections of, and then they cannot change, and they slowly begin to lose their relentless eternal predation upon the weak monster, the weak mortals, which they have done since forever, since the beginning of the universe. Since, let's say, the first races were crawling out of the caves dressed in rags or butt naked, throwing stones at animals, or like picking up shrubs, fruit from the trees or something. So I wanted that, and I managed to do it.
To do it well enough to get a lot of fans.
And I know you've read probably you've read one of the stories, which was perhaps the more space magic-y story about the mage, also called Till Death. What do you remember the most? What did you think that made you interested the most when you read that story?
I think it was the stakes, because billions die. So like, there's the essence of, okay, so this is where he's gone with this. What's going to happen next? You know what I mean? Like, how do the heroes come back from that? How do you overcome that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. And this will actually be a good lead in for what I'm going to be writing about tomorrow and posting over on Buy Me a Coffee. If I finish the essay today, I'll post it today. It's about writing fictional villains. Every villain should have, like, in order to cement your villain, you must have them do at least one major evil act.
Oh, yes. Do you remember my series of essays about the baddies?
Yeah.
I should continue them one day. I don't know when, but I will. And let's say you establish them as an efficient villain by, as you said, like doing at least one evil act. And for example, for Darth Vader, if when he is introduced, I think he
kills a guy.
He kills a guy. He just snaps his neck.
Yeah,
like
and
like like a fucking dry twig, and just throws him at the bulkhead like it's not a grown man, but like a rag doll. He's like, yeah, fuck off.
yeah, and he just says, "Somebody find me those plans."
Tear the
And
ship
tear
apart
the
and
ship
find
up
the
to get the help.
plans. And then
I want those prisoners alive.
when I watched
Oh,
it, and when I looked how his staff officers, he's like top staff officers, the imperial officers, the navy officers, how they interacted with him and how he talked to him after he killed that guy, I was like, man, those guys must be really really good, and they must actually uh respect him. Otherwise they would have like sniveled, and they, because like the first officers he Lucas showed.
interacts with some of them. Like, here's the shocking thing: they're like, you know, she won't talk, and you have Vader. You leave that to me.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just
they
saying, Lord Vader.
interacted like it's not just that was, it proves that those men were his personal picks. He
Favorites.
picked them. Yes, he picked them.
And
Otherwise, no one else
enough.
would have dared talk to him like this. No one
talks to him that way. But those officers felt comfortable enough to disagree with him as well. And that's something I really liked in episode 4. And that is something I think is missed in other franchises and in other parts of Star Wars. Just like the fact that, you know, people have the conception, oh, he was just killing off incompetent officers. But he was occasionally just talking with his actual officers, and they'd say, listen, I don't think this is going to go the way you think it is. Well, you leave that to me. Very well, Lord Vader. Like, they wouldn't disagree too hard, but they disagree gently. And then when he'd say, no, I'm putting my foot down, this is what I think. Okay. But he took, interesting thing was, he took their counsel like to heart. He was clearly thinking about it. Whereas what I noticed is that on my last viewing of episode 4, at no point did he consider Tarkin's perspective. And at several points, he even says, I told you she wouldn't crack. And you have Tarkin.
Yeah, because Tarkin is more of a politician.
He's a bureaucrat and a moron.
Yeah. He's not a proper. He's
not a military officer.
Yeah, he's just like he was assigned this project because he was like the top bureaucrat.
That Palpatine liked.
Yeah, and
there's a reason for Vader threatens to kill him a few times in the novel. And he's like, he strongly implies, I'm going to kill you later. And at one point in one scene, Tarkin doesn't even have the courage to, like, he's trembling and he knows Vader's in the room. He doesn't have the courage to turn and look at him. And Vader is enjoying it and feeding on the fear. And this is something that people are like, no, that wouldn't be in episode 4. No, because the problem is Peter Cushing is too good an actor, and it looks like he's intimidating Vader in a few scenes. That's not how it's supposed to be. In the book, Vader's the daunting force of nature that's scaring Tarkin, but Tarkin starts to, like, it's written like a psychological thriller. Over the course of the book, and clearly, had George been allowed to edit this himself, this would have been seen. He's kind of, you know what I mean? He's intimidating Tarkin. And Tarkin, as the story is progressing, is growing more and more discomfited and kind of losing his mind by the end. He goes a little bonkers because he's got this guy feeding on his fear, intimidating him, and playing a cat and mouse game. Because Vader's psychologically tearing him apart, just for fun. And Tarkin is slowly unraveling and realizing, I'm alone with Hannibal Lecter, basically. I'm with someone who's genuinely
Hannibal Lecter, but with the Force.
Yeah, he's genuinely sadistic. And you have Tarkin who's like, this is why, like, Vader, you know, we're near Yavin 4. All right, Vader's in the trench, fire. He's like, I want to take that shot. I want to kill him. Because it's as much about killing Vader as it is destroying the rebellion. Because, you know, this is Tarkin's one chance to live. Because if not, Vader's going to kill him no matter what. because Vader regards him as incompetent. But it's more than that. Vader is enjoying the hunt, so to speak. And so you have this very psychological, terrifying psychological thriller that's unraveling. And that's something that George Lucas even admitted that was cut, and he accepted because he said it was meant to be a more psychological film. If the director's cut was ever released, he said it would add 45 minutes to almost 50 minutes into the movie, and you'd realize it's a psychological thriller in a lot of ways. More
I
than
want to watch it. Now I want to watch it more than everything.
Yeah. But the trouble is these are some of the cuts that George's wife made. And Spielberg and Scorsese apparently saw the OG and said, you got to make cuts. And they convinced her. Well, they convinced George to take her on, and then they made cuts and cuts and cuts, and George had to put stuff back in. And that's where I just think, yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies to an extent, because you guys cut out the best stuff from this movie.
Thankfully, I did not listen. I had one of my ex-teachers in English. She gave me like terrible advice. I mean, she like not everyone is able to write to structure a story, and she gave me a terrible advice. And thankfully, I did not listen to her. I listened to another lady who was an actual magazine critic, and she was thanks to her advice, I restructured some of it, and that's why I have like the intro book in the beginning, and I did not like segment the intro stories of everyone, but I merged them together in a single book, and it's that, and then you have two instances of Carolla with Omasa and everything. So yeah, I agree.
Now, that said, we're not, like, just for the audience, because there's always going to be that guy who steel mans or straw mans us. We're not advocating against editors. I've got two editors.
Oh, no. God forbid. No.
No. What we're saying is when you have people editing with malicious intent, there's something.
Yep.
And I would argue you can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you have to be careful. Yeah,
so
you have to think. You have to measure the advice.
And
because some might be not. They might not be seeing the picture that you're seeing.
Yeah,
and that's why they would be giving that advice. So,
yeah, like on my Khaled Bog novel, there was a lot of superfluous paragraphs, and I was noticing them. And my editor asked, "Can I just take a hatchet job to some of these?" You know, like, but he said, like, I'm not going to cut out the important stuff. Don't worry, or the descriptions. I'm just cutting out all the thought bubbles. You know what I mean, like the thought stuff. Because I was like, I don't want those in anymore. He said, all right, I'll cut those out. Can I also cut out some of the because like I would describe things. This was one of my first books. Then describe things the second time. He said, can I cut out the second descriptions? Okay, sure. Take a hatchet job. He said, all right, I'll just do that for like a month. I'm just going to chop this thing up. But then when he got it back to me, I went, wait, hold on. You said you chop a lot of fluff out. Yeah, but I'm noticing a lot of fluff in there. Joe, I don't feel comfortable editing all that. No, I'm taking the hatchet job. I said, I don't advise this. I don't care. I'm doing it. I chopped it even more, gave it back to him. And he said, oh, wow. Yeah, you were even more ruthless and brutal than I was. The product looks the book looks a lot better now. And that was a case where I hadn't thought about it. He then asked for permission. I gave it. And then when I saw how much he left in, I went, whoa. I want all this chopped up out of it. So there's times when you, the writer, will look at your book and go, I could chop so much more out of this.
That's what they did, for example, with the sixth book in the Star Shattered series, Final Liberation. It's I cut about 200 pages, because the entire book is it's pretty much one massive battle, and it's on a much grander scale than the Battle of Gawa, because first of all, it's a much more important planet. It's a much greater strategic target, and it's already been occupied. And of course, it's in an even better position to become like the new base of the now even larger coalition force, because Umasa is he keeps building up. And I noticed things which they would have just cluttered the structure of the story, and I removed them. I removed them myself, and I'm not sorry, not one bit. But I didn't cut Biggs. I didn't cut nothing like that. I left. There is, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, or if I mentioned it, but there is a character which he may look a bit similar to the creature from to one of the creatures from Forgotten Realms. It's a fantasy creature. It's called well, it's an entire race, the Illithids. I don't know if you remember how they look. They have tentacles where their mouths. The squid heads. Yeah, they're terrible, and they're psychic. They're malevolent. They have these like giant brains. But in this case, that's it's a completely different species, and I did not cut him his like recurring scene. There was one scene in the book, and I did not cut it because I knew that first of all, it's important for another character, for one of the main characters, and second of all, it's he's almost making like a cameo, because after the first book, I like for Pete's sake, I even have one of the first drawings was a kid who drew like with a pencil this guy, and it's I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, I can find it. Do you want to you show it? I can send it to you to your Substack chat, and you can.
Sure.
Bless you.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Oh wow, we got 3 people watching right now.
Yes.
3 people with nothing to do on a Friday.
What is this?
What is wrong with you people? Truly, these are the end times.
Yes, how dare you? How dare you?
But I think we'll have to end it soon. I gotta go.
Oh yeah.
Send me that via the Substack chat.
Yeah, I send you. Let's see, what was the thing? He's, by the way, he is hired by Captain Ritza's parents to how to say it, bring back return their prodigal son, which he is not. He left for a proper reason, but this guy is, I can't compare him to a certain character from the prequels, because he's not a silly comedy relief character, but he's for some reason, a lot of the young readers who read the first book, they liked him. So he's called Mr. Spookums. Yes, he's a sly guy. He does work for the Zentari, the Anitsa's people, a lot, and he procures items, information, let's say, also acts as a diplomat in certain cases, and they pay him handily, like handsomely. But the problem with him is that he is perhaps a bit on the greedy side. Well, not overly greedy, but just a little bit, enough.
Just a
And
little bit.
yeah, a smidgen.
A wee
And
bit.
a wee bit. And he, when he commits to this contract of returning Anitsa back to his parents, he uses the discount the discount bounty hunters. He hires them and he sends them into Terran space and tells them, like, look now, this son, he is very precious. He's not to be harmed. You can only use discreet restraint, and he has to be returned unspoiled, meaning that no limbs missing, etc., etc. But the problem is that he is indeed hiring a discount bounty, and these are like not very restrained people. They're not. That we're going to do the job. We're giving you a discount, or they may not have been like perhaps the sharpest tools in the shed, so to speak, and they kind of make a mess. I'm not going to spoil, but this guy, I did not cut his scene in the sixth book, even though I used the huge hatchet, like the two-handed hatchet, and chop stuff. Like, I chopped a lot of stuff. And this is how a kid views this, like with their imagination. And the hat that he wears, it's a holo hat, has holograms in it.
Okay, well, we're gonna leave it there, and we'll plug first Black Knight's Substack, which everyone should check out for his stories, and don't forget to also check out the Warrior Wednesday Substack Cruise anthology crowdfund that's coming up. It'll be in the comments section. Now, what I might end up doing is downloading this and reposting it as a video.
Yes, that's a good idea.
If not, I'll just leave it as is. It might be better. That way the algorithm will shift it towards a streaming channel. So I might just do that instead. I think that'd probably work out better. And I'll just post those things in the comments section before I jump to before I have to leave. Also, my Royal Road account will be in the comment section. I mean, not the description, in the comment section as well. So check all those out and support the Black Knight.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to the Brother Screen Substack. And
Awesome.
grab a copy of Crown of Blood.
Thanks. And all the Star Shatter novels.
Oh, yes. And Lord of Bones, too.